So, a little while ago I made a video about the Batman Part 2, and in the almost year that it's been since I made that video, we not only know the same amount about the movie as we did at the time, we actually know less, because at least back then it was called The Batman Part 2, and now it's not. Plus it comes out like a full year later, so fuck me, I guess. I would love to talk about Batman, but there is no Batman to speak of. Except Absolute Batman, which you should absolutely read. And I guess you could count his cameo in. I, like many of you, had one single thought running through my head when I first heard about this. Who the fuck are creature commandos? And why are we doing this before, like, Wonder Woman? Or Batman? This is a Suicide Squad show, by the way. Just so everyone's clear, this is totally Suicide Squad. I know that that's fairly comic accurate, but like down to the vibe and the tone and the way that everything is. Not complaining. I liked Suicide Squad. I am probably the #1 defender of the new Suicide Squad movie. This is very much so like a direct follow-up to it, and I think on that merit alone I would have been like interested in it, I think. But I do think there are some decisions. Anyone who knows me knows that I like really enjoy most of James Gunn's work, and I'm really excited for Superman. But there are some decisions. Obviously, before I start, the season finale just aired today, like a few hours ago as I'm recording this. I'm probably going to have it done and uploaded within the same day. So watch the show, honestly. Before I get into any of the spoilers, any of the review stuff, there's a lot of really surprising moments that I am really glad that I woke up early and caught it as like a nerd. Even not as a nerd, I do think that it stands on its own. It's very much so worth watching. Not even, you know, taking into account it being the first, like, DCU property, because it's standing in the DCU is really nothing. Like, people mentioned beforehand that this show was made for the DCEU, and they kind of just adapted it, which is fine. That's very chill. So no one expected any, like, crazy, earth-shattering events to happen. But that being said, it is very self-contained. It doesn't do much of anything. The only thing they really call or dial into is the Suicide Squad. So getting into the actual show, the actual, you know, television program, all the way spoilers, out the gate, because basically everything I have to say that is a criticism of this show involves the last, like, episode. Too damn short, man, just far too short for the story they were trying to tell, and the emotions they were trying to evoke, which almost always landed really well. And then sometimes, like, you're rushing back and forth between, like, a sad flashback and the current episode. And you can kind of just feel the clock ticking. It's 20-minute episodes, and they were released every week, which was terrible. That was a terrible idea. That was so stupid. I think that generally dropping everything at once, like Netflix does, is also a terrible idea. But the weekly drop doesn't work if it's a 20-minute episode, and there's only, like, 7 of them. I'm gonna rewatch the entire show, I think, today, whenever I get some free time, and just see if it's a little more cohesive altogether, because definitely by the last episode, or the last couple, you know, the last batch of episodes, I was not as invested, I was not as locked in as I was, you know, week 1 when those first 2 episodes came out, and I watched 40 minutes of Creature Commandos, and I thought, oh dude, this story's awesome, I literally cannot wait to see where this goes. And it didn't really go anywhere. Like, I really had assumed that all of the pieces that were put in play were being set up for some greater machination. Something really big was going to happen that I wasn't expecting. Stuff did happen that I wasn't expecting, but it was all in the same bounds of what was set up in episode 1. Basically, every piece put into play in episode 1, that's what you're working with. That's it. What you see is what you get. There's no, you know, big, like... It sounds like I'm bitching that there isn't a twist or like surprises or glupshido cameos. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, it feels a little shallow sometimes because there's 20-minute episodes. There's only 7 of them total. You can only do so much in that time. That is not a lot of time. That's like, oh god, don't make me do math. That is 140 minutes. That's barely a feature-length film in the runtime of a television show. There's so many setups and so many things. I'm gonna kind of explain things and kind of not, because I'm assuming if you're watching this, it's either because you've seen the show and you want to hear your thoughts regurgitated back to you like a baby bird, or you haven't seen the show and you want to hear A, if you should watch it, or just if it's trash. If you were waiting for the if you should watch it, I already did that part. So we're in the trenches at this point. To give specific examples of what I mean by the pieces being there but not really doing anything with them would be Frankenstein and the Bride. I feel like there was such an interesting dynamic set up there. Interesting. I've been saying interesting wrong. The dynamic there is so cool. And I think that the fact that nothing happens with it at all, like within the first episode, they did such a good job at making me hate Frankenstein. And then for the rest of the show, they try and convince me to like him again. And then they're like, no, you definitely do not like this guy. And then he doesn't do anything. That's it. That's all he does in the whole show, is you do this little rigmarole of like, I don't even know if I like this guy right now. And then he's not in the show anymore. He gets the most anticlimactic quote-unquote death, because you know it's not a death. They're just kind of writing him out of the story, which makes you think, well, what was his purpose then? What did he do? Because we could have done... Literally, you could have just removed him from the story. I mean, unless I'm misremembering and he served some incredibly vital purpose. The whole story would have been perfectly fine if he just wasn't around. Like, he showed up to do, admittedly, some very funny lines.
The two of you, like Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, not many people have. But at this point, I have trouble distinguishing between you and Leo.
Okay.
Which one of you is king of the world?
Leo. Okay.
So, with all of that being said, I still really do like the show. I think Creature Commandos was an absolute success. This is mostly like a compilation of me bitching, to be real, but under all of that, under those issues that I have with some of the creative decisions, this was awesome. I mean, the soundtrack was dope, the story was cool, characters had very definable arcs and callbacks, and I watched the whole thing with my brother, and we both agreed that, you know, we went into it expecting not to care about any of these random ass characters, and we left almost like tearing up every time a character died. Like, we were so sad. The backstories were so well done. Everyone expected weasels in some way, but it was still heartbreaking. But that's basically all I have to say about the topic. I will see you guys in another 2 years when I upload again. Goodbye.